You just hung a brand new bird feeder in your backyard. You placed it behind a thick bush, tucked away in a quiet corner where nobody usually looks. You did not tell a soul. Yet by the very next afternoon, that feeder is completely swarming with cardinals, chickadees, and sparrows. It looks like they got a text message, but here is the surprising part. Birds do not have a secret social media network, and they certainly cannot smell the sunflower seeds from a mile away. So how on earth do they find your new feeder within just a few hours? Most folks completely miss the incredible detective work happening right above their heads. What happens next in the avian world is a masterclass in survival, memory, and teamwork, and the reason why is actually amazing. To understand this mystery, we first have to throw out one of the biggest myths in birdwatching. For a long time, people believed that birds found food primarily through their sense of smell. They thought a new feeder just wafted a delicious aroma across the neighborhood, drawing birds in like a magnet. But for almost all the common backyard birds in the United States, like your robins, blue jays, and finches, their sense of smell is practically non-existent. They are navigating the world almost entirely through their incredible vision. But even with great eyesight, how do they spot a tiny plastic tube hidden behind a leafy branch from hundreds of feet in the air? Hold on, because this gets interesting. Birds do not just fly around randomly hoping to bump into a meal. They actually have established daily patrol routes. Picture a local blue jay or an American crow. These birds are incredibly smart, and they act as the neighborhood lookouts. Every single morning, right around sunrise, these scout birds fly high above the tree line, scanning the ground below in a systematic grid pattern. They are literally patrolling the neighborhood. Most people are still asleep or inside drinking their morning coffee, completely unaware that a highly organized aerial search party is flying right over their roofs. When you hang a new feeder, the bright colors, the movement of the seeds, or even the glare of the sun hitting the plastic catches the eye of one of these high-flying scouts. Once a scout spots something unusual, they do not just eat it and keep flying. They investigate, they drop down, take a quick look, and if they realize it is a food source, they take a mental snapshot of the exact location. But here is where things get really interesting. The scout does not keep this information to themselves. You might be wondering how the rest of the flock finds out. This is where the social intelligence of birds like the black-capped chickadee or the tufted titmouse comes into play. These small birds are highly social and constantly communicating. When the scout returns to the flock, their behavior changes. They become highly active, fluttering around and giving specific contact calls. The other birds pay close attention. Believe it or not, they are watching the scout's body language and following their flight path. It is a classic case of watch and learn. If you have ever noticed a sudden explosion of chickadees at a feeder you just filled, it is because one of them figured it out and immediately recruited the rest of the crew. And that's not even the best part. They do not just follow the scout to the general area. They remember the exact branch, the exact angle, and the exact route to get back to your yard. But wait, if birds are naturally cautious, why do they trust a brand new, strange object in their territory so quickly? This is a question that puzzles a lot of beginner birdwatchers. In the wild, a new object usually means danger. It could be a predator hiding in the bushes. This caution is called neophobia, which is just a fancy way of saying a fear of new things. And yes, many birds will initially avoid a brand new feeder. You might hang it up and see absolutely nothing for a day or two, wondering if you made a mistake. But then, suddenly, they dive right in. What happens next surprises many birdwatchers. Every flock has a few bold, adventurous individuals. We call them innovators. These are the risk-takers. While the rest of the flock watches nervously from a safe distance in the oak tree, the innovator bird will dart in, land on the new feeder, take a quick peck, and dart back out. They are testing it for traps. Once the innovator realizes the new object is safe and dispensing high-energy seeds, they give a specific alarm call that actually means all clear. The rest of the flock, seeing their friends survive and thrive, immediately overcomes their fear and rushes in. That is actually kind of genius, right? They have a built-in quality control team. Now let us talk about the sheer brainpower required to pull this off. A black-capped chickadee weighs less than a paperclip. Its brain is tiny. Yet, research has shown that these tiny birds can remember the exact locations of thousands of hidden seeds scattered across multiple acres. When you add a new feeder to your yard, you are not just giving them a snack. You are adding a new, highly reliable coordinate to their massive mental map. And here is the surprising part. They do not just map your yard. They map the entire neighborhood. Birds are constantly sharing information about food sources. If your neighbor puts out fresh Niger seed and you put out black oil sunflower seeds, the local goldfinches and cardinals know exactly where both are. They treat the entire suburban grid as one giant, interconnected buffet. They fly a circuit, checking each stop. If your feeder is empty, they do not waste energy hanging around. They just fly to the next house on their mental route. But the moment you fill it up, the visual cue of the full feeder, or the sight of other birds eating there, signals to their mental map that this specific coordinate is active again. This brings us to one of the most powerful triggers for backyard birds, the sight of other birds eating. You might be wondering why a bird would trust a stranger in its territory. In the wild, food is fiercely guarded. But at a bird feeder, the rules change. When a hungry sparrow or finch is flying through the area, they are constantly scanning for movement. If they see a flash of red from a cardinal or the distinctive bounce of a house finch, their instincts kick in. They think if they are eating there, it must be safe, and it must be good food. It is the avian equivalent of choosing a busy restaurant over an empty one. The more birds you have at your new feeder, the faster more birds will arrive. It creates a positive feedback loop. The crowd attracts the crowd. This is why putting out a little bit of seed to start with, just to get a few birds eating, can actually be a brilliant strategy to draw in the rest of the neighborhood. You are essentially using the birds themselves as a beacon. Now I know what you are thinking. If they cannot smell the seed, and they cannot see it through a thick wall of leaves, how do they find it then? Is there any other sense at play? Believe it or not, sound plays a massive, mostly overlooked role. Have you ever noticed how loud a flock of chickadees or blue jays gets when they are excited about a food source? They chatter, they scold, they sing. When a bird is flying through the area, they are listening just as much as they are looking. The sound of a flock feeding acts like a dinner bell. It carries through the trees and tells every bird within earshot that a feast is happening right here. Furthermore, the sound of seeds themselves can be a clue. The soft clatter of a heavy seed hitting the bottom of a tray, or the scratching sounds of a sparrow digging through the hulls, creates a subtle acoustic signature that alert birds can pick up on. Most folks never notice this, but the backyard is an incredibly noisy place if you know how to listen. Let us bring this back to you, the person hanging the feeder. Your own habits play a huge role in how quickly birds find your new setup. If you are someone who fills your feeders at the exact same time every week, the birds have actually learned your schedule. They know when you walk out to the porch. They know the sound of your back door opening. They associate you with the arrival of food. When you hang a new feeder, your presence near it while you are setting it up acts as a massive clue. The birds are watching you. They see you interacting with this new object, and because they already trust you as the provider of seeds, their curiosity overrides their caution. They think if the giant hairless bird is messing with it, it must be related to food. That is why a feeder hung by a regular birdwatcher often gets visited much faster than one hung by a stranger. You have built a relationship with your local flock, even if you did not realize it. The speed at which birds find a new feeder also changes depending on the time of year, and the reason why is actually amazing. In the dead of winter, when natural food is buried under snow and calories are burning fast just to stay warm, birds are desperate. Their survival depends on finding high-energy food quickly. During these months, they are hypervigilant. They are constantly scanning, constantly patrolling, and they will investigate a new feeder almost immediately. The risk of a predator is outweighed by the risk of starvation. But in the middle of summer, when insects are plentiful and berries are ripening on every bush, birds are picky. They have natural food everywhere. In the summer, a new feeder might sit ignored for days because the birds simply do not need it. They are not ignoring you. They are just eating a fresh, natural diet. But the moment the weather turns cold or a heavy rainstorm washes away the insects, they will instantly revert to their mental map and check your new feeder. As the birds discover your new feeder, another fascinating behavior begins to unfold right before your eyes, the establishment of a pecking order. You might think that once the food is found, everyone just eats in peace. But here is where things get really interesting. Backyard birds have complex social hierarchies. The dominant birds, like the cardinals, blue jays, or larger woodpeckers, will often claim the best spots on the feeder or chase the smaller birds away. But the smaller birds, like the chickadees, nuthatches, and finches, have developed a clever workaround. They know they cannot win a fight with a blue jay, so they learn the dominant bird's schedule. They watch when the blue jay flies away, and they dart in for a quick mouthful of seed, then fly back to safety. They are essentially stealing meals in the brief windows of time when the boss is gone. It is a delicate, high-stakes dance of survival happening right on your porch. But here is the surprising part. Once the birds find your new feeder, they do not just stop at the seeds. A fascinating ripple effect begins, and most people completely miss this. When a flock of birds establishes your yard as a reliable food source, they start treating your entire property as a safe haven. Suddenly, they begin exploring other features you might have added without them noticing. Have you ever put out a new bird bath and wondered why it took weeks for anyone to use it, but then, right after they found your feeder, the bath is suddenly full of splashing finches? It is not a coincidence. The feeder acted as the anchor. Once they trust the location for food, their guard comes down just enough to investigate the water source nearby. They are mapping your yard in layers. First the food, then the water, then the safest nearby trees for cover. You are not just feeding them, you are helping them build a complete, customized survival hub right outside your window. And that is not even the best part. The birds are also making highly calculated decisions about exactly what is inside that new feeder. You might be wondering if they can actually tell the difference between cheap filler seed and high-quality food from a distance. Believe it or not, they absolutely can. Birds have incredibly sharp vision, and they can spot the subtle differences in seed types, colors, and even the thickness of the hulls before they even land. If you fill a new feeder with cheap white millet, you will likely attract ground-feeding birds like mourning doves and sparrows, but the finches and chickadees might give it a pass. However, if you use black oil sunflower seeds, which have a high fat content and thin shells that are easy to crack, you are essentially rolling out the red carpet for almost every backyard species in America. The birds know this. They are looking for the highest calorie reward for the least amount of effort. It is pure energy economics, and they are the ultimate accountants. Picture a northern cardinal landing on a brand new tube feeder. Before it even takes a bite, it is assessing the shell thickness, the size of the seed, and how easily it can grab it with its strong beak. If it is a difficult seed, like a large, thick-shelled striped sunflower seed, the cardinal might toss it aside and wait for a better option, or fly to a different feeder that has the black oil variety. They are not just eating. They are shopping, and they are very picky shoppers. This is why you might see a bird land on your new feeder, take one quick look, and immediately fly away. They are not rejecting you or your yard. They are just realizing that the menu does not meet their current energy needs, and they are moving on to the next coordinate on their mental map. This brings us to the incredible role of mimicry in how birds learn about new feeders. We talked about the bold innovators, but what about the cautious copycats? Most folks never notice this, but smaller birds are constantly watching the larger birds to learn the ropes. Picture a tiny tufted titmouse eyeing a brand new, slightly wobbly platform feeder. The titmouse is light, but it is still cautious. Instead of risking a landing on an untested perch, it will wait in a nearby tree and watch a much heavier blue jay or cardinal land on it. Once the titmouse sees that the perch holds the heavy bird without snapping, it instantly knows it is safe for them, too. They are using the larger birds as living stress tests. It is a brilliant survival shortcut. Why waste energy and risk a dangerous fall when you can just let the heavyweights do the testing for you? So the next time you hang a brand new bird feeder and wonder how they found it so fast, remember that it is not a coincidence. It is the result of high-flying scouts patrolling the morning sky, bold innovator birds testing the waters, and a highly connected social network of flock members sharing the secret. It is a testament to the incredible intelligence, sharp vision, and complex communication of the birds that share our backyards. They are not just mindlessly fluttering around. They are actively mapping, observing, and solving puzzles every single day. They are surviving in a world that is constantly changing, using every tool at their disposal to find that next life-saving meal. And the best part is, by simply putting out a feeder, you get a front-row seat to this amazing, hidden world. You get to watch the scouts, the innovators, and the flock work together in perfect harmony. Pretty amazing, right? Now I want to hear from you. What is the most surprising bird behavior you have ever witnessed at your feeders? Or how long did it take for the birds to find your very first feeder? Let me know down in the comments, because I read every single one and love hearing your backyard stories.